let's talk about monetization and pricing. There are two most common pricing strategies. They are cost plus markup. And can anyone tell me the other one? It starts with V, and we spoke about it a bit with the business model canvas. It starts with V. Well, it's two words, but it starts with V. But the business model canvas, we said, what makes you unique? And it was the V word. What is the V word? Okay,
You say V or B?
V.
Oh well, Robert, then type my answer, but I'm gonna say value.
Yes, perfect. Value. Value-based pricing. Value-based pricing is extremely important, especially if you are a service provider or you're an artist. You're someone who makes tangible physical pieces, or you make pieces for digital, or you are a different type of artist, right? So you could be like a spoken word artist, you could be an actor, whatever type it is, right? You cannot do cost plus markup. That just won't cut it, because let's say that you are an artist who creates pieces on canvas. Okay, so you add up all the tools that you need, the charcoal, the canvas, whatever it is. And then you say, all right, I'll mark it up by 40%, and that's your price. No, that's not how that works, right? So one of the biggest shifts that you have to move through to in your mind is value-based pricing. But remember the thing, and here's the issue. Value is subjective. Value is greatly subjective. Y'all, I have gone into some art galleries and I said, I could have done that myself. Right? I literally said, I could have done this myself, but I wasn't the target audience. That's all it was. I wasn't the target audience because, as far as I'm concerned, I was just a splatter on the wall. And then they decided to frame it. I'm just not the target audience. I'm just not the person who's going to spend $5,000 for it, right? So, okay, Jeremy put in the chat, can you give an example of how you would apply this to a performance artist? Sure. So, yes, we will talk through what that takes. But let's say, for example, if you're a performing artist, you have to look at experience, and that's anyone, as any type of artist. Are you a new performer? Are you a new artist? Are you, do you have a sizable resume? Because all of these things, as you do more, as you create more, as you get yourself out there, your capital or your value goes up. And then you have to start thinking about your time, right? There's this book that I would suggest that anyone read, or everyone read, not anyone. Um, Robert Cialdini, trying to get the name. Yes. So Robert Cialdini is an American psychologist and an author. So he wrote this book in 1984 that is, I mean, it's on a classic, just about every classic business book list. You will find this book there. It's called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. I believe it was him who coined this whole velvet rope term, right? Which is basically, imagine that, um, and it's in marketing. So there should be some level of exclusivity. That's what he's saying. If you go to a special event, everyone can't get in. There is a velvet rope that is put across the entrance, and there's someone there with a list, and they're checking whether or not your name is on the list. If your name is not on the list, you don't go past the velvet rope. That's basically the concept, right? The more you get seen, the more your value goes up, the more you get to be discriminating about the roles that you take and the work that you do. So you then put in a velvet rope process. So, for example, you wouldn't, mm, I don't, I, let me speak generally. Let me speak generally. Denzel Washington now does, I know why you really had to do that. Or there are artists who, or actors, because I consider them artists as well, where you're like, why you agreed to this? Like, you don't have nothing better to do with your time because you should be better than this. But sometimes, but because they're at that level, it doesn't necessarily diminish their body of work as a whole. But if you are someone who is more up and coming, and then you keep taking questionable roles, what's going to happen is people could pigeonhole you, people can keep offering you low quality scripts and things like that, right? So I do think there's a level of velvet rope. Exactly. That level of expertise definitely allows you to take more risk. And it doesn't necessarily undermine who you are or your resume. So I dropped the name of the book in the chat, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Okay. So you can do, and we're going to talk about this as well, is an effective hourly rate. So keep that in mind as well, Jeremy, when we go forward. Okay, so value-based pricing sets the price of your product, service, or experience based on what your customers are willing to pay. So value-based pricing is basically about perception, your customer's perception, not your perception. Those are two different things. Much of the time, we think that, okay, I don't think that someone would spend more than, you know, I don't know, however much the price is in your head. When the reality is, you might be basing your prices not in the reality. You might be basing them on how you feel about yourself in the moment, how you feel about your art. If you're questioning whether or not your art is important or whether people would accept it or if people would like it, that is going to show up in how you think you should price your product. So, again, me being a pricing person, I normally tell people before I even hear anything, raise your prices. Just raise your prices, right? But that comes with other things that we will talk about on Thursday. But generally speaking, people tend to underprice themselves, right? And especially, we live in a market, if you're trying to sell just strictly locally, we live in a market where people will try to tell you your value. So there are some things that you can do to combat that. One being that you do research. You look around and you say, okay, there are people who are in a similar type of position as I am, as far as time, experience, what it is that they create, right? And so, what is it that they're charging? And what am I charging? Y'all, I promise you, I had doesn't have anything to do with art. I had a wake up moment. This was about, I want to say 7, 8 years ago, because there was someone who I knew was in the industry, this out of the floral design industry, but in the events industry. And we did the same thing or a similar thing, right? She had her style, but I had mine in the way we do things. But we do similar things from the outside world. And when I found out how much this person was charging, and I was charging about a third to two-thirds less, you all hear what I say? I was charging between 30 and 60% less than what she was charging. I run hard that day. I pull up my contract and everything. I jumped my prices so high. I don't recommend everyone do this, but I think I added a good $1,000 at minimum to every single service that I offered, because while I was while I was mad, I also used that as research. Okay, I use that as an anchor to tell me it's not about stepping your game up. It's about the fact that, there are people who would say, well, how come her service costs this, your service costs this, y'all are doing similar things. So there has to be wrong with something with your service because hers is so much more. There are people who are going to think that, well, Shana can't be that great because this price is too low. Remember that your prices reflect your value in people's minds. So there should be no way, for example, if there's someone out there who does some type of similar work, I know art is unique, right? And they're out there charging, you know, Jeremy, let's go back to you. There's an actor out there and they're charging, let's say, $1,000 for a 2 hour appearance or 3 hours. And you're here saying, yeah, man, I could do that for 250. And you know they're charging $1,000. And there's a level of name recognition as well that you have or that you're starting to have, right? And you're saying, yeah, I could do that for 250. Do you think those people are going to respect you? Because I promise you, if they really want that other person, they will find that $1,000.
Let me find
I'm
out
not
there's
saying that you
oh, I gonna
go
say let me
ahead.
find out there's a Bahamian actor. They're charging $1,000. Oh,
I'm just saying.
let me do my research right now. Thank you for that.
I'm just saying, do your research. Someone else is going to say something. Y'all, there are ways to do research. There are ways to do research. Don't ask ChatGPT because ChatGPT will lie about market prices in the Bahamas because most of us do not put prices online, right? So there's not much information for it to pull from, but do your research. Ask around.
Someone,
If you know
someone.
some people,
Sorry to cut you off, Shana. Someone
go ahead.
said the best way to get somebody prices is to act like you booking them or trying to hire them.
Yes, I've done it. I ain't glad y'all. I've done it out of curiosity. I've walked into stores before. I have, oh, okay. How much do they happen to charge you? Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that I know with networking as well is that once you fool and you don't seem problematic or you seem likable, people will give you information. You could pick their mouth without being obvious. Or sometimes people will just outright tell you without you even having to have pretenses. But whatever it is, do your research. So you need to ask yourself, is my art unique? Is it different? Are my clients price sensitive? What does that mean? It means that if you book commercials and you usually charge $500 for a full day shoot, and then you jump to 750, are your clients likely to say, no, we'll have to go with someone else, or will they be okay with it? Then this is a very, very big question, and not just for artists, for anyone who runs a business. Am I solely reliant on the income I make from my art, or do I have other streams of income? Extremely important. Okay. I had this crazy thought in my mind. I was like, I don't know if this thing recording. I didn't check before I started talking. Okay, I see it. It is recording. All right. So, am I solely relying on the income I make? Because that makes a difference. When you see sometimes, and I explain it to people, sometimes people are like, oh, why is there such a price discrepancy? There's a difference between a cake artist, because I consider them artists, right? A cake designer who solely designs cake as their only source of income versus someone who has a 9 to 5 job and then they run their cake business as a 5 to 9 or as a weekend business. Totally different because all the expenses for their life, if they have a job, don't have to be covered by the business. So they tend to be a bit cheaper. And that's just not cake designers, that's people in general. I promise y'all, because when I made the jump on the switch to full-time entrepreneurship, and I said, oh, these prices have to change because I can't eat if I have to deal with the business expenses and pay myself a salary. I cannot eat at these prices. I can't save, I can't do anything at these prices. And these are the things that you have to consider as well. Okay, so one of the ways to start the process of setting your prices is determining how much money you need as an individual to cover your cost per month. Plus, and that's you personally. Plus, add up the cost of the tools you need to create. Plus, add up the number of pieces that you can create per month. Or, in the case of the actor, add up the number of appearances that you can make in a month. Okay, so what is that? One, your personal expenses for the month, plus the cost of the tools that you use, plus the number of pieces or appearances that you can create or make in a month. So, what does that give you? You can unmute and answer me, or you can drop it in the chat. What does that do? What does all that math do?
I just could take a long shot and say all I'm at supposed to help us calculate the break even.
Good. Sets the value of your product. Close. It starts to set the value of your product. All of that you did shows or gives you a minimum hourly rate. You cannot go below that. Cannot go below that. And in fact, the better that you get, and the better that you get, and the more experience that you get, and the more known that you get, you can move away from hourly rate pricing. But for now, if you're just kind of trying to figure out the pricing thing, when you add all those things together, you know you cannot charge below this price. And then on top of that, let's add, and don't forget that your savings are an expense. Your savings are a cost as well. So here are some assumptions that you need to make about knowing your expenses. One, I started to say it before, track your time. Track your time. If you have to go to the supply store and it takes an hour or 2 hours, add that up. If the time that you actually take to create or perform, add that up. The time that it takes you to package something and get it to a customer, add that up. The time it takes for you, if you're selling NFTs, for example, or if you have a website or an e-commerce site that you use, the time that it takes you to upload or even make your art digital and then upload it on the site, add that up. You have to add everything up. Your time is important. Your time is valuable. Your time is something that you cannot get back. And so, if you have a job and you expect that your employer is going to pay you for your time, why would you not expect to be paid for your time in your own business? And in fact, you could charge a premium to your own business at some point when you get there, right? If you're not there already. The next thing you need to do in getting to your prices is how you going to set a price, as Patrick said earlier about knowing your cost. Y'all, how are you setting prices and you don't know how much it costs to create? You out there going on vibes, basically. That's what it is. If you don't know your costs, you out there operating on vibes. Like, yeah, I feel like this should be priced like this. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Feelings and business rarely go together. I'm not saying they don't go together. Sometimes you could use it to fuel you. But feelings when it comes to setting your prices, nah, they don't go together at all. You could be doing yourself a disservice when it comes to pricing your products if you go off of your feelings. So you need to have a spreadsheet. And you guys will have a spreadsheet as well to help you set your prices. That will be an added resource for you. You need to be granular. You need to be detailed. I don't care if you bought a whole can of paint and you only use a quarter of the paint. I don't care if you need to buy a scale so that you can measure how much the paint weighed before and how much the paint can weighs now. And then you figure out how much paint you use and then do that calculation to see how much it costs for that paint. Yes, you need to do that. Whatever it is. If you are an actor and you always need to be providing your own wardrobe initially or doing your own makeup, doing all of these different stuff, calculate it. How much is this makeup costing me? Every time I do my own makeup, yeah, you may not go to, a professional or whatever it is, but you're still using makeup, you're still using product. You have to be granular, you have to be detailed in your pricing. We're almost done, guys. So, how experienced are you? How many months or years have you been creating? Do you use any special techniques? Do you regularly go through training? That is something that that I also use to raise my value. I went to trainings. I try to do once a year or once every year and a half, which is very expensive. Sometimes those trainings alone might be a $3,000, $4,000 trip, including the cost of the training. So you all think I'm spending all that money to come back and charge, because I mostly do weddings and events, to charge $75 for a bouquet? Mhm. The answer is no. I proudly say that I am on the high end, okay, or the higher end. Are you creating custom one off pieces? Are they limited edition pieces? Are they open edition pieces? So, open edition pieces means that they can be replicated, reprinted, or you can just keep recreating them over and over and over again, right? Which means that the piece has a lower value versus if it were a one off or limited edition. So, just keep that in mind as well. Robert says, the question for hourly prices, is it fair for the client to be punished if you are a slow creator? Or is it fair to be punished for being a fast creator? I love that question. You should never be punished for being a fast creator. Okay, let me tell you why. And I go with my experiences as well as experiences of other artists that I know. This is my experience as an example. Because of my training and the fact that I've been doing floral work since December 2013, that's when I started. Um, I can work quickly when it comes to bouquets, which is my specialty, right? Wedding work is my specialty and special event. I am not going to penalize myself because the bridal bouquet that it takes me to do in 10 minutes, sometimes less, might take someone 45 minutes to an hour. Why in the world should I be penalized because I'm faster? I have more experience than that person, more than likely. So I should be paid more because of my experience. Because I'm faster, I should be paid more. That answers your question. I should be paid more because I'm faster. And there are different ways that you can sell it, right? So I don't know the nature of the art that you create, but let's look at a graphic designer. A graphic designer could say, well, I can get it to you, and it could be a big job. Now, the average person, the average designer, this is what they're saying to their client now. The average designer might take 7 days turnaround for this job. But because of my level of experience, I can do this for you in 4. So you position it as I'm faster than them, I'm more experienced than them. No one in their right mind, unless they're completely unfair, is going to say, yeah, I'll pay you lower than the slower person or the person who's going to take longer to get me the work. No, because what they're asking for is equivalent of a rush job, and you don't do rush jobs at regular rates. That's what you're saying that you can do for them. Now, the question for them is how badly do they want it? How quickly do they want it? It is also about how you position whatever it is that you're creating to your client. That's very important as well. It's psychology. It's how you communicate with a person. If you say, "Oh yeah, I can knock that out in a day," then it makes it sound like, "Oh, well, that should be cheaper. It's only going to take you a day." No, it takes me a day because I've been doing this for 15 years. It'll take them 5. But the way that you say it makes a difference, right? You didn't position your experience. You didn't talk about, well, compare me to them. Did that answer your question? Okay. So we spoke about, okay, perfect. You're welcome. We spoke about doing your research. Are you tracking your time? Are you open to creating different sizes at different price points? Are you open to, doing a smaller piece and then also doing bigger pieces so that it gives people more access to your work? Are you willing to do hour-long appearances, or do you always have to do something where you're needed for multiple days at a time, right? Like maybe a production. How much profit do you want to make? That's very important. It's the equivalent of in your personal life, if you're considering taking a job, how much money do you want to be able to save? If you take a job and you know that the job barely covers your bills, that means that you're going to have very little to save. But if you take a job where you know, okay, this will be an upgrade for me and I could put a good bit of money aside, it might be more attractive to you. So in your business, how much profit do you want to make? How much profit do you want the business to make? And how much profit do you want you as an owner to make, right? So you could give yourself a salary, but you could also give yourself a bonus depending on how well the business does. So you need to try to be consistent with your prices. Any of us, I know I've experienced it. Any of you have ever, you paid for something and then all of a sudden you see the price get cut in half without explanation? Meaning there was no anniversary, there was no thank you, there was no we running a sale, a discount. It's just you paid for this. And now all of a sudden, I've seen it like a $1,300 course, course. And then a couple of days later, the course is 697 or something like that. And you're wondering, like, well, what the heck? Why did the price change all of a sudden? Because hopefully the value is no different. They're saying that they're offering the same thing, right? So you have to be consistent with your pricing or try to be, because what it does is it raises questions in people's mind like, are you trying to get over on us? Because you were just charging this today. Yesterday you were charging something else, and now a month later you adjusting your prices again. It makes people distrust you. It undermines the customer perception and the customer experience. And you definitely, like I said, I'm against discounts for the most part, unless it's for some special reason. Because what it does is if people know that you regularly discount your work, they're gonna wait you out. They'll be like, man, I know every quarter around the same time I notice that they usually put out a discount on their art. I'll wait till next quarter. There's no urgency for them when it comes to paying you full price. Now, this is a resource I'm dropping in the chat that I think you may find helpful. It's called Hug Art, Hug Art. I hope it's pronounced Hug, or it may just be pronounced Hug. But anyway, it's a free resources for artists and collectors. I think would be very, very interesting for you. And then something that you will get is called a pricing worksheet as well. This pricing worksheet, let me show it to you very quickly. We have about 5 minutes left, 10 minutes, not including your questions, which again, you can feel free to drop in the chat. Okay, So the pricing, the artist pricing calculator that you're also looking at is from Hug. So if you're going to use this, make a copy of this for yourself, okay? So that no one else can see your edits and your changes. Make a copy of this yourself. And then you go in and you start to itemize, and you can just, play around with your prices so that you can see how much you could be charging per item, um, what type of art it is. Is it limited edition, open edition? Is it custom? Is it commission? Is it one of one, etc.? Okay. And then it will allow you to put in your hours spent. It'll calculate, or it allows you to put in your hourly wage, the cost of materials, and then it tells you how much you should be charging, or at least gives you a baseline or a minimum of how much you should be charging without you having to manually calculate all of these things. I am not a fan of doing things manually. I think it takes longer and it slows you down. So when you can find templates, when you can find tools and software that will make it easier for you to track your numbers and just make your life easier in general, please take it. And for anyone who is tracking your expenses by hand, or you are giving out manual invoices, please stop. There are free tools for you to use. Their learning curve is not steep for most of them. Um, and here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. And I tell people this because this is real life, okay? When I was traveling to my brother's graduation from Nassau in 2017, I think it was 2018, I don't remember exactly the year, I was denied boarding for my flight by US CBP. I got pulled in the back for the first time in my life. And at that point, I was a regular traveler. For the first time in my life, I got pulled in the back. And they said to me, "You are a flight risk." And I said, "Sorry? What you mean, me as a flight risk?" They said, "You're unmarried, you don't own property, you don't have a child. Um, you're considered a flight risk. So these are the things that you need to bring back if you want to get on a flight tomorrow that you say you do. You need to bring back these things on this checklist. Otherwise, you know you will not be traveling to the United States of America." And do you know that one of the things I needed to have was a year of business records, my financial statements, not just my personal bank statements. I needed my business financial records. Now, thankfully, I did have to spend several hours inputting some of the expenses and things that I missed, but I already had most of the things in. Y'all, did I say for a year? I said for a year. So imagine if you had all these different little pieces of paper, or you had nothing at all, and you had to figure out how to suddenly produce financial records for your business for a year's time, and you had nothing. So your life would be complicated if you're just doing everything manually or not at all. But because I was using Zoho, no, I wasn't using Zoho, I was using Wave. Because I was using Wave, I was able to input those things, generate my reports. I could print out my reports. I could show them all my transactions. I could show them all of my jobs that I did. I could show them all of my expenses. That's why I am a proponent. I'm telling you from experience, this is what I experienced. And even still, even though I had all of these different documents that I could, and I had my business license, of course, as well, um, I was still told, "Listen, we will let you go today, but don't think you will come through." And y'all, hi, my visa had just run out, either that same year or the year before. Other than that, I've always had a visa. Um, they said, "Yeah, we'll let you go today, But don't think that you could come through here again without a visa. Go apply for a visa. And I was able to get my visa, thankfully. Okay. But even that was nerve-wracking because if y'all denied me the airport or wanted to, there's no guarantee that I would get a visa. But again, all those same documents that I needed to get through with US Customs, I had to present and show for my US visa. So I'm not talking to you about what I don't know in theory. I'm talking about the fact that there are situations that can pop up and you having proper financial records, which is a whole other conversation, can save you. Alrighty. So here are some key takeaways that I want you to remember. Remember that your structure, your business model protects the talent, which is your art, and allows you to benefit from the value that you give it, which is your prices. Your business relies on a business model, it relies on the value of your work, and it relies on your audience and you knowing your audience. And again, we'll talk about that on Thursday. You need to continuously audit the work that you do, audit your business model, and even audit who you're selling to, because sometimes there's a mismatch, right? You could be selling to the wrong person. It's not that, there's something wrong with whatever it is that you're creating, but you could be in front of the wrong people. Consider the common business models that artists tend to use, right? Which is direct to collector, commissions, gallery sales, licensing, and prints and reproductions. If you are an actor, for example, you could do appearances, you can do radio work or voiceover work, you can do production or on screen acting, and you could do filming. There are different ways, right? So be sure that you explore either creating your business model canvas and or your one-page business plan, and remember the marketing mix to pull out of it, the 6 P's. Remember, use value-based pricing, not cost plus markup. You can start with an hourly rate, and then once you are amazingly out there, then it doesn't matter how much you're charging, right? Y'all would be astonished. I think, no, I don't remember how much Oprah makes every hour, how much she makes every hour, but it's something crazy, right? Oprah would never say, "Oh, I charge an hourly rate of." And yeah, you might be like, "Girl, why are you talking about Denzel and Oprah?" Because you need to start thinking on that scale. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is you cannot avoid admin work. You cannot avoid admin work. I don't care if you don't like talking about your numbers. I don't care if you don't like doing your own accounting. I don't care if you don't like answering emails. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It is a trap if you think that you don't have to pay attention. It is a trap to think that, oh, well, I'll figure that out when I could figure it out. How? And you running a business. How? And you're trying to live off of your art. How? People could be trying to reach you and you don't answer your emails, you don't check your emails. That makes sense? Anyway, anyone have any questions to close us out?
No, you just called me out, so I humbly reject the offer to answer or ask questions.
Who was that? Who said that? I was in the chat.
It's me, it's Jeff.
Ah, yes. Well, it is what it is. I've been called out too, and then I had to do better. And it's an evolution, right? I continue to learn and I continue to build and I continue to set up my processes. I'm not perfect. I'm just sitting here as an example to you of someone who has made a lot of mistakes and had to learn the hard way, and also realize that there were some things that I had put in place that unintentionally saved me from certain situations like what I just shared with you. Anyone else has any questions, comments, concerns? Feel free to go into the events tab and then book an office hour with me if you need more time, particularly if you want to discuss your business model or your prices, we can do that as well. There are 30-minute slots. It will take you to my calendar on Calendly, and then we can go from there. So if no one else has any comments or questions, I hope this was really, really helpful to you. Those resources will be made available to you that I mentioned. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about branding, your personal brand, your target audience as well. So come ready to discuss that, and I will see you on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Good evening.